Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. So I've already done the 9th Winter 2016-2017 update. You can find the video for that on the homepage. Later on today, it will be placed on the Winter Updates page. There'll be an extensive written report that goes with that as well. We're coming towards the end of the Winter updates now, so make most of them. They're not going to be lasting for much longer, and of course on the 1st of December we're actually going to release the GazWeatherViz.com Winter 2016-2017 forecast. So we are moving very closely now towards the crunch time when we're going to come up with the forecast. So you can find videos out on the homepage. Later on it will place on the Winter Updates page. This is the November ECMWF seasonal model interpretation. Now, the ECMWF organisation, of course, may have the shorter range model, which we use in the videos all the time, goes out to 10 days away. But perhaps what's not all that widely well known about the ECMWF organisation is that they also have a long range seasonal model that runs out at least for 6 months. It may go out even longer than that. It isn't publicly available, so it's not available for you and I to go and look at and see what it's showing as we normally do with the long range models. And you know, you've got the UK Met Office, the JMA, the CFS V2. They're all publicly available, so you can go and look at them whenever you want to. This model is different. It is highly restricted access. You can access the model, but it costs a huge amount of money to be able to do so if you're a member of the public. Otherwise, it's available to sort of professional meteorologists and that kind of thing. So, through the autumn, a very, very kind person who's going to remain unnamed is been sending me the actual charts from the ECMWF seasonal update. It updates once a month. I'll see the charts for November, and I'm going to try to interpret them for you right now. I'm not able to put the charts up directly. You can't look at them and see the charts as I have seen them, but what I am allowed to do is give you my interpretation of those charts that I have witnessed. So that's what we're going to do for this video. Very exclusive content for GazWeatherViz. This isn't widely available at all, and it really is quite exclusive for the website. I think I've done quite well through the autumn, something a bit different, but you have to bear in mind I'm not an artist, and just to say that the interpretations are very, very basic, but I think they make sense, and you'll be able to understand and follow what the model is doing. So I'll get on with that in a moment. Before I get on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. If you have a browse widgets and click through the links, you'll be helping us to pay for our website. Thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most pages. They open content when you watch them. They close back up again. It does help to pay for GazWeatherViz.com. And the Christmas shop is open. So if you've got any Christmas shopping to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, just click the green button that says Christmas shop. It'll take you to our Christmas page where you will be greeted by the Amazon banners. You'll be greeted by snowflakes trickling down your screen, and also you may get your very first Merry Christmas from the website. But the key to it all really is to click through the Amazon banners. So once you're on the Christmas page, click through the Amazon banners, and then from there, it will take you off to Amazon. When you do Christmas shopping as well, you don't need to do anything different whatsoever. Certainly it's going to cost you any extra money. You just do your Christmas shopping as normal. The only difference is that because you click from our website to theirs, because you clicked from GazWeatherViz to Amazon, we get a revenue fee on the things that you are purchasing. Big, big, big thank you to everybody for doing that for the website. And of course, you've still got plenty of time to get Christmas presents in. But just keep it in mind that if you're doing any Christmas shopping at Amazon, you can go via the GazWeatherViz.com Christmas page and or Christmas shop. And thanks for doing that, and happy shopping. Right, let's get on with the interpretation then of the ECMWF seasonal model. So I'm on the ECMWF website right now. This is ECMWF.int. This is their forecast page. So you can see the shorter range charts from here going out to 10 days, but you can't see the longer range stuff. So normally I would tell you to check out the links page and go and see the model for yourself. And certainly if you want to check out the sort of up to 10-day period, you can do that. The link is on the links page, but you won't be able to access the long-range seasonal model. So this is what it was showing last month when we did the October update. This was the mean sea level pressure anomaly for December to February for the winter from the ECMWF model. And very interesting update, that last one. It was suggesting northern blocking, high pressure up around Greenland and Iceland, and then low pressure to the south, sort of going through Spain into the Mediterranean, also the Atlantic. And it's very indicative of a southerly, tracking jet stream going a bit like that as well. So it was a cold update. The temperature and precipitation anomalies with these long-range models, I have to explain this all the time, the temperature and precipitation anomalies with these long-range models don't always back up cold conditions, particularly in terms of the temperatures, but it's always the height anomaly and the mean sea level pressure anomalies that we focus on, because we think that a lot of the time the model will underestimate the potential for warmth or cold. Generally they're a bit biased on the mild side, actually. So the temperature and precipitation anomalies with these long-range models is always a bit unreliable, but if you pinpoint down the pattern, then you can sort of interpret what that pattern should be producing, if you like. So the first chart I'm going to start off with, and I've got a slightly different view for this chart. Our good friend James Ackrill has sent some charts over that we use for our analog analogs when we do the winter updates, and we've decided to use those charts for our ECMWF interpretation. So it looks a bit different to what we was doing last month, but it's still the same idea. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly for December to February. So this is covering the full winter period. Above average heights is what reflected with brighter colours, sort of reds, oranges. So that's high pressure, and then below average heights normally reflected by blue. So what we see in terms of the 500 millibar height anomaly for the winter is that we've got quite a lot of blocking being suggested here to the north of the UK. This is the UK just here, of course. So we've got a lot of blocking being suggested for the winter, above average heights sitting to the north of the UK, around Greenland, around Iceland, extending back into the North Pole. We also have suggestions of a mid-Atlantic ridge going down into the central part of the Atlantic. There's also some ridging over towards the eastern, southeastern part of Europe, perhaps. Then we have this large area where there's not much going on. It's just sort of average heights being predicted by the model. But I suspect actually what we would get here is a trough. So if I clear that away, we'd have the ridging up here, and then also going down here. And then I think this area where it's all sort of white and it just looks average, we'd probably have a trough of low pressure in this area. So that's a cold looking signal, really. If you've got high pressure to the north around here, and if you've got low pressure to the south, you're probably going to be bringing the flow and the winds in from sort of an easterly or northerly or northeasterly type direction. Now, this ridge over towards the east and southeast of Europe is a bit of a complicating factor, but it isn't as strong as this vast area of above average heights that's sitting up to the north. So overall, I think that 500 millibar height anomaly from the ECMWF is indicating blocking, northern blocking, and I suspect we would strengthen a trough through central parts of Europe, and that will give us potentially, particularly for central parts of Europe, but also potentially at times for the UK and Western Europe, that will give us the chance of colder conditions. As we get through to late winter, this is the 500 millibar height anomaly interpretation for January to March. And this one is a little bit different. We still have sort of blocking up to the north, but also extending down in towards the central part of the Atlantic. There is a suggestion there for blocking up over Scandinavia as well, some high pressure up there. And then heights are generally just a little bit higher than average, where we've got this yellow area. So generally, I think the broad idea is that virtually this area, which is the northwest, so this sort of area is likely to be having quite a lot of high pressure. Its exact position may be not the same as the December to February anomaly. There's probably still some sort of trough extending through Central Europe, and then over towards the east of Europe again we have that ridge just there. So a lot of high pressure influences, but in slightly different positions, and it's just not quite as clear cut for cold weather that for the late winter period. I suspect we will bring in, probably would be still cold at times, but we would probably bring in more of a westerly type influence, more of an Atlantic type influence. So maybe as we get through to late winter, it turns a little bit milder. And this has been something that has been in play, not just from the ECMWF model, but also from several models over the past few months, that the earlier part of the winter is probably likely to be quite cold, and then the later part of the winter, so February into March, might be turning milder. And I think it's quite complicated to decipher what model is doing in terms of its 500 millibar height only for January to March. But I think reading between the lines, that idea is probably still there, that we're turning it a little bit milder in the late winter period. That's 500 millibar heights. This is the mean sea level pressure anomaly for December to February. So again, this is mean sea level pressure for the winter, and very similar to the last update in terms of the mean sea level pressure anomaly. So again, we've got high pressure being centred around Iceland. It also extends in towards Scandinavia, and generally above average heights to the north of the UK, and also extending down in towards Scotland. So loads of high pressure to the north, and then underneath it our interpretation shows that we've got low pressure in the Atlantic extending through the Mediterranean. That, I think, is the jet stream track going through there. So we've got a southerly tracking jet stream taking low pressure from the Atlantic into Spain, Portugal, then on through into the Mediterranean. A little bit of a question mark over southeast parts of Europe because the 500 millibar height only did show a ridge down there. So quite how far the jet stream gets through. It may do perhaps something a bit like that, get towards Italy, and then do a bit of a split with a ridge up here. But anyway, I think where the blue colours are, the below average pressure anomalies with the mean sea level pressure, we're quite clearly seeing signs of a southerly tracking jet stream, and then that leaves us with blocking up to the north. So broadly, it is still very much the same idea in terms of the heights, in terms of the pressure for this winter, which is northern blocking. It's a cold signal. It means that very often the winds will be coming in from the east across many parts of Europe and extending into the UK at times as well, with that jet stream on a southerly track through the Mediterranean. So this is, again, it's in the cold camp. The ECMWF seasonal model is in the cold camp for this winter. Northern blocking is suggested. Again, particularly perhaps for the early part of winter, because as we come through to the mean sea level pressure anomaly for January through to March, again, we do have a change. We lose that signal to the southerly tracking jet stream. It looks like heights or high pressure just sinking southwards into the Atlantic, also extending through the UK and into Scandinavia. Notice this little bit of blue up here, that's low pressure, which may be indicating the jet stream is coming back to the north then as we get through to late winter. So the position of this high pressure centre out to west of Ireland, but extending through the UK, probably keeps it mostly dry, but it would mean that the flow probably comes more from the Atlantic for the late winter period. Again, you'll notice not much going on across many parts of Europe, so the signal is weak for much of southern, central and eastern Europe. But I would have thought that if the high pressure sort of centering and sinking a bit, so we've got high pressure through here, you're likely to be pushing the easterly winds more through there. So late winter might turn colder in the south and the east of Europe, if that makes sense. Early winter, we perhaps have the easterly winds coming through here because the high pressure is centred up here. later in the winter, as the high pressure sinks southwards into the Atlantic and into that sort of position, we might push those cold easterly winds further south into central, southern, southeastern parts of Europe. So if you're watching, in Balkans, I know I do have some viewers looking at us from the Balkans and from Greece, places like that, Italy, it's possible you get the cold weather later on in the winter as the blocking sort of sinks down a little bit and turns the north and western Europe perhaps a little bit milder. This is a temperature anomaly for the winter. But again, this is covering December to February. Again, it's weak signals for temperatures, but notice significantly warmer than average to the north. That's where we've got all of the blocking, of course, through that earlier middle part of the winter. Not really anything cold, though, being suggested for most parts of Europe. Where we've got all this white is just sort of average temperatures, really. We have got some below average temperatures out in the Atlantic. That presumably is because we've got the southerly tracking jet stream doing something like that. Notice southeastern Europe looking generally quite mild for the earlier part of the winter. But for much of Europe, we've got high pressure up here. You will think that'd be pushing out the cold air, and you think this area really would be colder where I've drawn the arrow. So Ireland, the UK, France, Holland, Belgium, Germany, Poland, up towards the Baltic. You will think that area would be colder, Denmark too. It just shows average temperatures. I've explained this before. Very often with these long-range models, they are a little bit biased on the milder side. So I would reduce where we've got these average temperatures, or where we've got all of this white. I would be thinking that this area is likely to be cold generally. And then, of course, we've got the warm temperatures up here. So essentially where the average temperatures are lower than by a degree or two, and you're probably closer to how things will work out if that blocking sets up as the model suggests. And then we go through to the January to March temperature anomaly. That one, again, looking significantly warmer than average to the north. So again, we've got high pressure up there perhaps, although the suggestion from the heights is maybe to sink that high pressure a little bit. Otherwise, again, most parts of Europe actually just coming out with average temperatures, not a particularly strong signal in terms of those temperatures. I would have thought what's probably going to happen if that blocking does sink down into the northwest of Europe. So you would have this area probably fairly mildish, although if the high pressure is centred across the northwest of Europe, it could still be quite cold and about high pressure. And then sort of southeastern southern parts of Europe, so this area here would likely be colder. So I'm not sure Mars got things quite right with its temperature anomalies in terms of its 500 millibar height and mean sea level pressure anomalies. I think it's overdoing the temperatures, as these long-range models tend to do. Expect a cold winter, especially earlier in the winter, if the model is right with its pressure distribution. Finally, precipitation, and that is very weak. The anomaly is very weak for this winter for precipitation. But it does show that to the north and west, around Iceland, and then to the northwest of Scotland, going down into the central part of the Atlantic, it's drier than average. So again, this is indicative of high pressure being to the north and west of the UK. Then, quite interesting for southeastern Europe, I'm still not quite sure what's going on in the southeast of Europe, actually. The signal for the north and west of Europe is very strong. The signal for the southeast of Europe is quite conflicting because it is wetter than average down across the southeast of Europe, particularly around Greece and Turkey. And that doesn't really tie in with having a ridge down there. So I'm a bit unsure, actually, about what is going on across the southeastern part of Europe this winter. What may happen is that it starts off with a lot of dry weather, and then gradually, over time, it turns colder and more unsettled. I think that will be particularly for the later part of the winter. For the north and west of Europe, though, the suggestion is very much for high pressure to be up there. It's drier than average up there, which again does tie in with bringing in those cold easterly winds around the blocking into many central, northern and western parts of Europe. Finally, precipitation anomaly for January through to March, so for late winter, looks like this. Again, still got the suggestion of drier than average up to the north and west. Slightly weaker signal up there. maybe also hinting at turning dry on average to west of Portugal, so that could be indicative of a strengthening of the Azores High, if you like. So overall, I think the signals are still there, but again, notice many parts of Europe with no signal, and that is something that tend to find with these long-range models. Their precipitation anomalies do tend to be quite weak. But overall, I think the signal is still there that the late winter, we probably find the jet stream moving back north again, which sort of strengthens the Azores High. And this area here, where it is dry, it may be a bit wetter than this, actually. We've got these little blue colours just here and up here. And I would have thought what probably happens is that low pressure eventually comes through here. We've got the high pressure just here and maybe just here. Jet stream will be in that sort of position, and that allows southeastern, some parts of Europe, to turn colder. So that's my interpretation of what the ECMWF model is doing for this winter. The temperature and precipitation signals are quite weak, and they're quite difficult to decipher. Again, still no signal for significantly or substantially colder weather this winter across Europe. But with the position of the 500 millibar height anomaly, and also with the position of the mean sea level pressure anomaly, we have to be taking seriously, because there's a lot of blocking being suggested there, we have to take seriously the chance of substantially colder than average conditions coming into Europe at times through this winter. I think the signal is still there that the early part of winter is likely to be the coldest part for the north, west and central parts of Europe, and then the later winter possibly turns colder for southern, eastern, southeastern Europe as it turns a bit milder in the north and west. There isn't a lot to go on for that, but I think looking at the height anomalies and the pressure anomalies, that makes sense. As we go further into winter, the cold potential probably shifts south and east. But, of course, the further out we get with these long-range models, the lower the confidence. So, that's how it's looking with the ECMWF. It is in the cold camp for this winter. When we do the final seasonal model roundup, which will be at the end of the month, when we do that, we will include the ECMWF. I'll show you my interpretation again for that update, and it will be placed, this update from the ECM will be placed within the colder models, because there's so much blocking being suggested, particularly for those December to February anomalies, that it just makes sense that it would have to be cold underneath the block through many parts of Europe. Right, I hope you enjoyed these updates over the past few months. I think this is the third or fourth one that we've done. Very different kind of forecasting from GasWeatherViz. So not sure if there'll be any more coming up in the near future. Hopefully, I'll be able to show you them again as we run up towards next winter. But it really has been quite fascinating insight, I think, into the long-range ECMWF model. And if you haven't watched your 9th winter update yet, go and check that out on the homepage. It'll be placed on the winter updates page later on today. And all it remains is to say thanks very much for watching as always. Bye for now.